Casino Red. Tales of the Magi Saga by Andrew Dobell. Casino Red, New York. Amanda stood before the full-length mirror in her bedroom, holding up the light and floaty red dress she had worn to the New York ball a few weeks ago. The dress had been a present from Maria, who had wanted to surprise her. When she'd first seen the sheer material, she'd felt nervous about wearing it, but the pretty embroidery preserved her modesty, and the final look with the matching strappy high heels was certainly heart-stopping. After her initial trepidation, she had chosen to brave it and, in the end, felt both comfortable and empowered during the high-profile Magi event. The ball had ended with a troubling trip to Ultima Thule, home of the Magi Council, on one of the moons of Saturn that had soured the end of the night. Those memories meant that every time she saw the dress in her wardrobe, she relived those thoughts and emotions. But Maria loved her in this dress and had been asking her to wear it again ever since. She'd resisted until Maria offered her a night out somewhere wonderful if she wore the dress again. Unable to resist for long, Amanda had agreed and now held the dress up before her with the memories of the New York ball filling her mind. Maria gently wrapped her arms around Amanda's waist and whispered in her ear. "I don't know which I prefer," Maria purred. "You in that dress or out of it?" Amanda laughed. "Play your cards right and you might get both." "I'm counting on it," Maria said. Feeling better, she turned to face Maria, who had a cheeky look on her face. "Thank you," Amanda said, giving Maria a quick kiss. It was time to get dressed. Arm in arm with Maria, Amanda walked through the lobby of the Hotel Hermitage with its pristine white decor, wearing her long red dress and feeling ready for a great night. Maria had ported them over to Monte Carlo in Monaco in the south of France, where she had booked a room for them. The penthouse suite, no less, with its wooden-decked terrace that looked over the bay and its endless rows of yachts. She'd spent a good while stood there, looking at those boats and thinking that she would love to have one day. Not an unrealistic proposition to a Magi such as she, but it could wait for the time being. She'd checked herself in the mirror one last time before heading down to the lobby with Maria, pleased with how she looked. The dress hugged her body in just the right places, while it slid up her right leg allowed it to flare out around her legs as she walked. She kept her hair loose this time, letting it cascade over her back, its color not dissimilar to the red of the dress and high heels that had straps up to her knee. They finished off the outfit perfectly, and gave a satisfying click on the polished marble floor in the hotel lobby as she walked through it with Maria. Maria wore a figure-hugging white dress that displayed her curves and figure as she moved, her dark, wavy hair standing in stark contrast to the white of her dress. "This place is stunning, Maria. Where are you taking me?" "You'll see. We'll have a good night, I'm sure. I want you to enjoy yourself. Let your hair down and have some fun. Things have been way too serious recently, and I think you need to relax a bit." Amanda smiled at Maria, a feeling of love and protection filling her up and making her feel happy and excited at what the night might bring. They stepped outside the front entrance and Maria passed the valet a ticket. "We have a car?" Amanda remarked. "Of course, only the best for you tonight, but this isn't just any car." The roar of the high-performance engine that assaulted her ears at that moment immediately made Amanda turn her head to look at the car that eased down to park before them. The vehicle looked like something from the future, with its dark gray carbon fiber bodywork with bright red trim and some crazy styling. "Holy shit," Amanda whispered under her breath. "This is for us?" "Indeed it is," Maria said with a smile. "What the hell is it?" "A Lamborghini Centenario, and it's a work of art, don't you think? Wow, it's fecking awesome, so it is." "Then please get in," Maria said, motioning towards the passenger door. Getting into the car in high heels in her somewhat revealing dress proved to be a slight challenge, but with a bit of help from the valet, she soon found herself sat in the futuristic car that looked like the inside of some kind of starship. She couldn't help but run her fingers over the carbon fiber and leather interior and marvel at the lights on the dash. She had never been inside of anything even remotely like this. Maria lowered herself into the driver's seat and tipped the valet generously before closing the door, shutting out the street noise outside. "Shall we?" Maria asked. "We shall," Amanda answered, unable to stifle the grin that had spread across her face. Seconds later, they pulled away from the hotel and out into the streets of Monaco. "Where are we headed?" Amanda asked. "All in due time. I thought we'd enjoy this car a bit before we reach our destination. Monaco is quite small, so I think we'll have a drive first. Sound good?" "Absolutely," Amanda said. Maria guided them out of the city, through the Monaco tunnel and onto a nearby highway, where Maria proceeded to break the speed limit and give Amanda a few scary moments showing off the ludicrous acceleration of the car. Amanda could see Maria's magic at work, keeping the lane they used clear and their car unnoticed by the authorities and the cameras. The whole ride thrilled Amanda and reminded her of the power of her motorbike. She'd ridden motorbikes for a while and loved the sensation of speed she got from them, but had always dismissed cars as being unable to deliver the same thrills. But as they navigated back into Monaco, Amanda knew she now stood corrected. A short time later, they pulled up outside an ornate, sandy-colored building with two squat towers on top that faced onto a busy square with people going about their evening. A few other fancy cars were parked beside them, so Amanda looked up and saw written on the front of the covered entrance, Monte Carlo Casino. Amanda raised her eyebrows in mild surprise and considered it for a moment. She had not suspected this, but it certainly fit with everything else Maria had done for her so far. The sumptuous hotel, the flash car, and now this, a prestigious casino. The whole thing felt like some kind of James Bond film. Amanda smiled. Money wasn't an issue for her and her magic, so this could be fun. "A casino," Amanda stated. "Not just any casino, but the casino I think you'll find," she said with emphasis. "Of course, I'd expect nothing less," she said, smiling. The doorman to the casino stepped forward and helped each of them out the car in turn as curious members of the public looked on, staring at the rare car. After her lover had spoken with the valet, Amanda took Maria's arm and walked towards the entrance of the building where the doorman met them once again and held the door open for them. "I'm guessing you have never been here before?" Maria asked. "No, I've not had the pleasure," Amanda answered as she took in the stunning interior decor. The place looked more like a palace than a casino with its marble columns and polished floor, and this was just the atrium. She stood in the middle of the huge room with the smooth stone columns holding up the first-floor balcony above. Wooden doors carved into decorative shapes lined the far wall, while to her left the sights and sounds of people on slot machines and having a fun evening could be clearly heard. Maria went to speak with the lady at the front desk and gained them entry before returning to her side. They walked slowly towards the noise of the slot machines. "Now, don't be surprised if you feel some magic going on in here or sense other magi or scions. This place is a bit of a magnet for the supernatural," Maria said. "I can imagine, what with all the money and influential people from around the world coming here to spend their money." "Absolutely. But we're here for a fun night, as are most of the other magi here, nomad or not. I believe the Arcanum has a few people here, monitoring things to make sure the nomads don't get out of hand and start ripping people off." "Really? Wow, that's proactive of them." "That's only what I've heard. The Arcanum don't exactly broadcast their operations. Anyway, let's not talk shop all night. We're here to have some fun, right? Right, Amanda said as they moved further into the casino. Entering the first room through a large doorway, they found themselves enveloped by the sights and sounds of people having fun and spending money. To their left were the first few banks of slot machines and the people playing them, while to their right, a money exchange table swapped people's cash for the brightly colored tokens or chips that you always used in a casino to stop you thinking you were actually spending money. Maria went to get them some chips and motioned that Amanda should go and have a look around. A huge archway led into the next room, bigger than the first, with even more machines and people putting money into these games of chance, like it was going out of fashion. As Amanda walked over the blue and gold carpet, she could already sense magic at work here and the presence of other Magi. But the feelings were fleeting as the workers of the magic did their best to hide their presence. The room had this strange juxtaposition of the modern games of chance standing in stark contrast to the gold and marble decor, the vaulted ceiling with its glittering chandeliers, and the exquisite Renaissance paintings that adorned the walls. And yet, it worked. The common theme here obviously being money, and it served to tie the whole thing together in a curious kind of way. Spotting the bar, Amanda walked over and slid her bum onto one of the cushioned chairs and caught the waiter's notice to order some drinks, while she looked across the sea of faces amidst the glowing lights of the slots. The dress code in here was strict, with all the men wearing jackets at this time of night, and no sandals or flip-flops allowed. Amongst the gamblers and curious tourists, casino security walked the floor, watching the throng of people for any transgressions or people trying to cheat the system. She felt sure there were other Magi in here, not that she could spot any right now. Maybe they'd make themselves known later. By the time Maria returned, 2 glasses of champagne sat on the black mirror-shine surface of the bar. Maria handed over Amanda's share of the chips and picked up her glass. "A toast to a night of fun with friends?" she said. "I'll drink to that, so I will," Amanda said, and sipped her drink after a clink of their glass flutes. "So what do you fancy? The machines, or do you want to have a look at the roulette and card games?" Amanda glanced at the machines she sat near. They were strangely alluring with their blinking lights and promise of winning the jackpot. But they also seemed to her like the game for the gullible, and felt they were more based on pure chance than something like blackjack or poker that appeared to have more skill attached to it. "Let's go through to the card games and roulette. They appeal to me more than these do," she said, indicating the slots. "Sounds good," Maria said, and fell into step beside Amanda. She walked through to the next room where a number of tables covered in green velvet stood on the red and gold carpet. Crowds of people stood or sat at these gaming tables, playing or watching others. Amanda walked over to a nearby blackjack table with a few spare seats and motioned to the croupier in a questioning manner, asking if she could sit. The man nodded, and she quietly slid onto the seat, doing her best not to disturb the other players who were mid-game. As the current round of the game came to an end, she found herself dealt into the next round with 2 cards placed in front of her. The aim of the game was to get as close to 21 based on the value of your cards without going over. You played against the house, and the side with the highest hand won. It took a few rounds to get the hang of it, but she soon found her stride, and with a bit of friendly banter going around the table, she found herself grinning from ear to ear and having a great time. Maria stood behind her and offered support and advice as she played. She could have cheated, using her magic to swing the game in her favor, but where would the fun be in that? As usual, Amanda had her aegis up and fully fueled to keep herself protected, but she also had a dampening effect cast upon herself, hiding her magical nature from any who might be looking for a Magi such as she. All Magi had a kind of magical sight that allowed them to actually see essentia, magical energy, which meant they could also see its use as well. When you used this sight to look upon a magus, their enhanced connection to Essentia showed up as a glow in and around them, and their aegis appeared as a kind of semi-transparent bubble that surrounded them. Essentia always appeared to be in motion naturally, like a lazy mist in the air that didn't move too much, but never appeared static. Essentia also fueled life, and when looked upon, you could see the Essentia being both sucked into and expelled out of a living being in a gentle manner. Magic had a similar effect, but in a much more violent way. Magic caused the otherwise lazy glittering mist to surge and whip about in gusts and eddies of varying power, depending on the strength of the magic used. But a Magi's control over Essentia could also be used to calm that effect. They could dissipate the Essentia, make it calm again, and hide their magic's effect on it. This took time and concentration and could not be done quickly or when you were under pressure, such as during a fight. But Amanda was under no such pressures here, so she could easily dampen her effect on the essentia around her, and by adding in an element of illusion, a glamour effect, Amanda and Maria could both appear as mere mortals to any other Magi in this building. In addition to the cameras placed throughout the room, trained on the tables and the people playing the games, Amanda suspected there would be others, either Magi or initiated, walking through the room, looking to see who else might be here and if any of them were using magic. If the Arcanum were here, they wouldn't be working for the casino, but they would be trying to make sure no mortals got ripped off by a magus with a need for money or power. Obviously, that would be a losing battle. Any nomad or other magus in here would be aware of that while doing their best to stay hidden from any such nosy people. But these thoughts didn't last long for Amanda. She was enjoying herself too much to worry about any nomads, or initiated for the time being, as she lost another hand to the house. A short while later, Amanda found herself at a roulette table while Maria played elsewhere. Blackjack had been fun, but Amanda wanted to experience as much of the casino as she could and play several of the games on offer. Roulette looked like fun, and she soon found herself on a bit of a winning streak. As she played, she gained the attention of a couple of men who maneuvered in close to her and offered to buy her drinks. She entertained their advances and laughed with them, enjoying their attentions. Her winning streak didn't last, though, and after losing a few times in a row, she decided she needed another drink and made her exit from the table. Walking to the bar, a brief flash of magic caught her attention and made her look up, over to a man in his late 30s or early 40s with a very pretty young girl on his arm who were also making their way to the bar. Amanda caught the tail end of a magical effect from the girl as she quickly smoothed over the ripples of Essentia and swiftly appeared mortal once again. Curious, Amanda reached the bar and listened to their conversation with her superior hearing. "Hey, you're doing well. I knew this would work. I knew you'd have a lucky streak. That last hand was amazing," the girl said to him, speaking quietly. The man looked strung out, desperate, like a deer in headlights about to be struck, but looking for a way, anything that might save him. "You think?" he said. "Yeah, I know it. You're great at this. You always have been," she answered, her arms around him, her body pressed in close, his hand stroking her butt. She whispered something naughty into his ear that made him grin like the cat that got the cream. This girl was up to something. She probably wanted his money and was manipulating him into a situation that would mean he'd lose it, while she gained it. As she watched, another brief, but barely noticeable ripple of magic reached out to the girl from a group of 3 men sat at the far end of the bar, who didn't appear to be taking any notice of the couple to the mortal observer. Amanda recognized the magic. They were speaking telepathically, and this girl appeared to be a part of the group of men. Amanda caught a brief scowl from the girl, surreptitiously directed towards the men so that her mark didn't see it. She didn't appear to like the interruption. Moments later, Amanda heard the girl talk once again. So how about we take those winnings to a bigger game? I bet we can find some gullible high roller we can beat. I said before, not yet. Let's have one more game of blackjack and then maybe. I have no idea how we'll find one of these high rollers anyway. Leave that to me, she said. I think the casino might know some we can challenge. So that's how they would do it, Amanda thought. This girl would get the man to play against her friends and probably use some magic to tip the scales in their direction and take the man's winnings. She looked over to the 3 Magi and then back to the girl and the desperate mortal. She didn't like this at all. A few moments later, the girl made some excuse about visiting the ladies' room a few moments after the 3 other Magi left the bar, saying she would be back in a moment. Amanda watched her go, before looking back at the man and with a quick and subtle working of magic, glanced into his mind. It didn't take long. She quickly discovered the man's desperate frame of mind, his collapsing businesses, and fading fortune. His wife had left him after discovering his cheating ways, and it was clear to Amanda that it would only take a small nudge to tip this man over the edge and into suicide. She glanced around and realized she couldn't spot Maria. She wanted to help this man and get these predatory Magi away from him, but wasn't sure how she would do this while keeping a low profile. As the girl returned to the side of the man, Amanda's magic back in check and hidden from view, the best cause of action might be to get involved in this high-stakes game and just take these Magi to the cleaners and then give the man the winnings back. She didn't fancy the idea of getting violent. Also, she was here to play the games, so this seemed like the best way to keep enjoying her night and get the result she wanted. She watched the mortal and the girl head off to the nearest blackjack table and wondered how she would get involved in their game. As she thought about it, the waiter walked over to her and asked if she'd like to have her drink topped up. Looking up, Amanda nodded. "I have a question," she said to the man. "Go ahead," he answered. "If I were interested in a private high-stakes game but didn't have an opponent, how would I go about getting involved in one?" "Tonight?" Amanda nodded in answer. "You need to speak with the casino. If there are any others who have expressed an interest, they will put the game together for you," he said. Amanda smiled as she looked over at the 3 Magi who watched their accomplice, and the mortal play their latest hand of blackjack, a magical nudge from them keeping the odds in the mortal's favor. "Could you find someone for me to talk to then, please?" Amanda asked. High stakes. Monaco. A short time later, she saw the 3 Magi speaking with one of the casino managers, her enhanced hearing picking up the conversation about a private game of Texas Hold'em poker. Stood near to the girl and the mortal, it also appeared that they were nearing the end of their time at the blackjack table, which meant she needed to make her move. She quickly found and spoke to the same manager that the other 3 Magi had discussed their game with and expressed her own interest in the same thing. "Of course, madame. Any further stipulations? Any bet limit?" No, I'm open to anything. I just want to be involved in a high-stakes private game," she said. "Then you're in luck. We have just had some other players express such an interest. I think we can put this together for you." "Thank you. It sounds fun," Amanda said. "Then please, bear with me. I need to make some arrangements," she said, and excused herself. Amanda watched as she moved to find the 3 Magi who had just spoken with her, only to be interrupted by the mortal and the girl Magus, who went on to ask for the same thing. Amanda grinned. This would be fun. "What are you up to?" Maria said from beside her, her sudden presence making Amanda jump. "Jesus, don't do that." "Sorry," Maria said. "It's no bother. I'm going to have a private game of poker with some Magi who appear to be scamming some poor man. I'm going to take them to the cleaners and give the man my winnings." "Only you, Amanda," she said, a knowing smile on her face. "What? It's not right what they're doing. Of course it's not. You go and have some fun. I'll be in here somewhere," she said, and kissed her on the cheek before heading off into the casino again. The manager walked over to her with the 3 Magi, the girl and the mortal in tow. The manager smiled at Amanda while the others looked at her in curiosity and suspicion. "These are the other players, madame. Shall we move to a more secluded area to discuss the fine details?" "Of course, lead on," Amanda said, and fell into step behind the manager, with a few annoyed glances from the 4 other Magi in the group. Amanda brought more of her magic to bear to keep her true nature hidden from these con artists. Moments later, she spotted magic from the 3 men being sent in her direction. They were checking her out. She lowered her aegis so as not to arouse any undue suspicion and allow their magic through. They weren't powerful, but they did attempt to read her surface thoughts. Amanda focused her mind and revealed only that she wanted to have a fun game and had plenty of money to waste. She also purposefully displayed some fake ignorance of the game, making her look like a juicy target for these money-hungry Magi. The manager led them into the atrium, upstairs onto the balcony, and through a sturdy wooden door into a spacious private room with a large poker table in the center that dominated the space. Although ornately decorated, the room wasn't as ostentatious as the main casino and had more of an understated elegance to it that Amanda preferred. There were already a few other staff members in here, including the dealer and a couple of security guards. Amanda quickly agreed to the buy-in amount, not really taking much notice of the figure. Instead, she focused more on her opponents. The mortal that was being conned by these Magi was Devin Baxter. The girl was Kate, while the other 3 men were Nikolai, Lambert, and finally Will, who Amanda guessed to be the ringleader here. She still hadn't pinned these Magi down to being either Arcadian or nomad or independents. Not that it really mattered. She just wanted to know who she would be dealing with. Everyone settled into place, Will to her right, while Devin, then Kate, followed by Lambert and Nikolai, sat to her left. Devin played nervously with his chips, no doubt acutely aware that this pile of brightly colored plastic and metal chips represented his entire fortune. Everyone else in the room appeared calm and either kept to themselves or eyed up the competition. Drinks were ordered, and the croupier dealt the first cards in what could be quite a long game. Amanda had played poker before many times. She wasn't an expert at it, but she did enjoy the game and had a good understanding of the basic tactics involved. This was Texas Hold'em poker, the game that you typically found played in casinos around the world, and also the game featured in the recent James Bond film, Casino Royale. Each player receives 2 cards, while 3 community cards are dealt into the middle of the table for the players to use to make the best hand of poker they can. A round of betting follows, before the 4th card is dealt, and then another round of betting before the 5th and final card joins the other 4 community cards. A final round of betting ends the game before the winner is declared. Amanda often had difficulty remembering the hands and their order of superiority, but it always came back to her when she started playing. But it wasn't really the mechanics of the game that allowed you to win. It was more often the tactics and how you played against the other players. If you could force the other players to fold before the showdown that happened after the final round of betting, then any money in the pot became yours by default. To win at poker, the key was to read your opponents, to figure out their playing style, and then to counter it. Amanda played cautiously at first, watching the other players and doing her best to read their playing styles and to figure out who would be the difficult opponents. The 3 Magi all seemed to be doing the same, but as the hands were played, she could start to see their playing styles come forward. Nikolai and Lambert were both playing quite tight games, folding early if their hands were poor, and only betting when they had something they considered to be good. Their betting could be considered to be aggressive, but not too strong. They seemed to be hanging back and letting Devin do the work, almost just feeding in the rope so he could hang himself. Will seemed to be more of a loose, aggressive player, bluffing by raising on hands that were rather poor and betting quite aggressively. But again, Amanda had the feeling that despite this, Will was holding something back, wanting to lull Devon into a false sense of security before he set his trap. The real wild card, though, was Devon himself. His stressed state of mind seemed to be affecting his play, and he swung wildly from one end of each spectrum to the other, meaning that trying to predict his play wasn't easy. Of course, with a little magic, Amanda could swing the cards in her favor and predict Devon's play quite easily, but Amanda wanted to keep her presence as a Magi here quiet unless the situation demanded it. To that end, Amanda used her magic slowly and carefully, letting it seep out and gently twist the fate of the cards to her favor, while trying to read the other players normally, without magic. Her magical vision showed her the hidden story of the game, and how the Magi here were trying to swing the fate of the game to their favor by reading the mind of Devon and using that to try and predict his next move. Kate sat next to Devon, rubbing his back and whispering words of encouragement, urging him on to bet more and more. She didn't play, but was there as a kind of moral support. Amanda could see the way Kate's magic worked at Devon's mind, no doubt to keep him in check, and when the time came, to get him to bet it all. All four Magi were all in constant mental communication with each other, sending messages back and forth, coordinating their game. She couldn't read their minds, not without giving herself away, so Amanda kept to herself and played the game as best she could. With her magic working away in the background, quietly and unnoticed for now, she found she could manipulate the game to keep her in it, and it soon became clear that this would be a game between her, Devon, and Will. As Nikolai and Lambert lost their chips and dropped out, the game grew more serious, and Amanda noticed a flurry of mental discussion between the Magi and a few looks in her direction. They were talking about her, and Amanda felt that she knew where this might be going. Amanda's share of the chips had been steadily growing, and she guessed that losing a big chunk of their money to her just wasn't going to sit well with these Magi. She felt another wash of magic pass over her as Will attempted to read her surface thoughts once more. For the moment, she wasn't sure where this might be going, so she concentrated on the game and allowed the magic to happen. More messages were passed between them, and as the next hand started to play itself out, the magic grew in intensity, with Kate taking a much stronger grasp of Devon's mind. Amanda, meanwhile, chose to use the multitasking effect and split her mind in two. She pushed one forward, keeping it magic-free and thinking purely about the cards and the game, but with no control over what she was actually doing. Her second mind withdrew. She buried it deep, away from the telepathic scans, but the control over her actions remained in this second hidden mind. As the first 3 cards were placed into the center of the table, and then the next round of betting began, Amanda could see that this looked like the end game. They were going to get Devon to go all in. And if she suspected correctly, Will would attempt to telepathically do the same to her. But with her multitasking effect, the mind he would control would be ineffectual. Amanda lifted the corners of her 2 cards once more. She would have a strong hand again and could potentially win this game. The round of betting began, with Devon and Will raising each other and driving the size of the pot up and up. Amanda stayed in, calling each time it came round to her. As the turn card, the 4th community card, was played, Amanda could feel the magic at play on Devon's mind, pushing him to go all in, and just moments later, magic from Will reached out to Amanda's decoy mind. Keeping it separate, Amanda let it fall under Will's control and watched him push her to go all in. Devon was first to bet and went in with a high bet, followed by Will, who raised the pot. On her go, she followed the directions of the magic from Will and rose the pot again, feeling slightly amused by the situation. Amanda had also given this decoy mind a false idea of what the cards were. It was still a good hand, worth betting on, but not as good as her actual hand. With the betting returning to Devon, Amanda looked over and could nearly see the thoughts spinning around his head. Sweat had started to bead on his forehead, showing how desperate he was feeling as he fidgeted with his cards and chips. Amanda couldn't help but feel sorry for him. He didn't stand a chance against these Magi and their schemes, but with her help, he would come out of this better than he could have hoped for. With his stress levels getting the better of him, Devon finally threw caution to the wind and went all in before holding his head in his hands as he watched the game play out. Will followed suit and went all in as well, but with a much calmer attitude. Following the magical prompts from Will, even though they were ineffectual, Amanda did the same and bet everything. Amanda could feel the tension in the room. The possibility for things to turn ugly felt very high, and with the two security guards clearly on alert, Amanda knew that everyone could feel it. The cards were dealt, and the tension ratcheted up. No one felt they had lost based on the reveal of the final card, which meant that a showdown would end the game, with everyone revealing their cards. Devon went first, revealing a full house. He had a queen and 10 in his hand, and paired that with the 2 queens and a 10 in the 5 community cards. A good, strong hand, and although stressed, Amanda could see the confidence hidden beneath. Will smiled and turned over 2 kings in his hand, which he matched with another king in the 5 community cards, and the 2 queens as well to hold a higher hand. Will looked smug. Amanda glanced up at Devon and the look of abject horror on his face. She got a sinking feeling deep in the pit of her stomach. Devon was clearly heartbroken as the realization of what he had lost fell over him. He would be feeling sick to his stomach, and she could see the hand closest to her start to shake as panic set in. Amanda reached for her cards. Devon picked up a glass, smashed it on the table edge, and advanced on Will with the improvised weapon. Will jumped up and, with a flare of magic that had kept it hidden, pulled a gun from behind his back. Devon froze with a look of fear on his face as he stared at the handgun. Around her, chaos was unleashed. Lambert and Nikolai threw one security guard to the floor, while Kate jabbed her hand into the throat of the second, making him choke. The manager screamed while the croupier ducked beneath the table. Amanda threw her cards down, revealing the winning hand of a straight flush. Her Jack and 9 of clubs matched the 10, Queen, and King of clubs in the community cards. Not that anyone noticed. Having kept her full strength aegis hidden and buried deep inside her where it had been ineffectual, Amanda now released it. It sprang into place and pushed Will's magic from her mind as if it were nothing. Rising from her seat in one swift motion, she knocked the gun from Will's hand. It clattered to the floor behind her. Backhanding Will in the face, he staggered back into the wall. To Amanda's left, Lambert and Nikolai pulled magically hidden weapons and brought them to bear on the manager and croupier, respectively. On instinct, Amanda threw up a magical shield as the guns were unloaded on them. The rounds slammed harmlessly into the shield. Kate yelped. Amanda turned to see Devon standing behind her, his arm wrapped around Kate's neck, and the gun that Will had drawn in his other hand, its barrel pressed into the side of Kate's head. He stared at the table and at Amanda's 2 winning cards. Amanda glanced at her cards and then back to Devon. He looked up at her, a wild look in his eyes. "You won," he said, as saliva dribbled from the side of his mouth, making him look crazy. "Looks that way," Amanda said calmly. "I want those winnings, or the girl dies," he said, his voice shaky and panicked. Amanda raised her eyebrows. "Well?" Devon interrupted her. "You're all working together, obviously. This was a setup, wasn't it?" Amanda grimaced. You're half right, but I'm not your enemy. Then give me your winnings, he said, and pointed the gun at Amanda. Amanda moved quicker than he could follow. She disarmed him, pulled him from the girl, and twisted his arm into a painful hold behind his back. She slammed his face into the table, where his drool soaked into the green felt. Amanda leaned over him, getting her face close to his. I was going to give you the money anyway, you dolt. I was trying to protect you from these scammers. Amanda looked up at the croupier who was peeking up from behind the table. You get that? The pot is his, she said to him. The croupier nodded as Amanda noticed the Magi running from the room. Pulling the gun apart with practiced swiftness, she dropped it and jumped over the groaning security guard, her red dress flaring out behind her as she followed the trailing Magus out the door. He sprung to the top of the stone banister and made to jump. Amanda followed, launching herself after him. Her kick connected mid-drop. Air whipped past as she fell, landing on the marble floor in a crouch, using one hand to steady herself. The skirt of her red dress floated to the floor around her. Nikolai slammed into the floor behind her. He would live, but hopefully, this was a little lesson for him. Around her, casino staff looked on in horror. Paying them no mind, Amanda's heels squeaked on the polished marble as she sprung to her feet. She charged after the 3 remaining Magi as they ran into the casino, knocking people to the floor as they went. Amanda sent a telepathic message to Maria, telling her to inform the council or the Arcanum. Some cleanup would be required. Her sprint caught her up to Lambert in the Salle Renaissance, the first slot machine room. Reaching him on his left side, she kicked with an essentia-laced foot. His aegis flared and failed as she swept his legs from beneath him. He fell. An elbow to his face ensured he ended up on his back, knocked out cold. These guys might have been prepared for a fight with mortals, but not Magi. Their desire to remain hidden from other supernaturals like Amanda meant their hastily erected defenses were weak. Amanda didn't mind. It made her job easier. She spotted his gun on the floor beside him. She stamped on it with her essentia-infused heel, breaking it, rendering it harmless. Running into the main slots room, she could make out Kate and Will, the 2 remaining Magi on the far side of the machines. There were people everywhere. Amanda followed through the gap in the crowd the scammers had created, leaping over several members of staff and players who'd been knocked to the floor. Leaving the slots behind, she gave chase through the first card and roulette room, where only a short time before Amanda had been playing. People stared agape as she charged past, her skirt trailing as she no doubt flashed them a little too much skin. "Sorry," she called out while dodging through the throngs of guests. But she didn't care what she looked like or what others thought of her. She was utterly focused on running down these 2 Magi who wanted to destroy Devon's life. Amanda spotted the pair disappearing through a doorway at the far side of the room. They pushed past the doorman into the private games area beyond. Amanda darted forward, running through the doorway at full speed into the lounge area. She was gaining on them and followed as they veered right into a gaming room where small groups played in quieter and more refined surroundings, away from the tourists. The shouts from Will to clear the path shattered the calm. Kate dodged around the far side of a blackjack table. The players backed away. Amanda jumped and rolled across the top of it, throwing chips and cards everywhere as they caught in her dress. Amanda spun and kicked Kate in the side of her head. Essentia exploded out of her foot into Kate's aegis. It flared from the impact as she staggered to keep her balance. Wildly, Kate threw a kinetic attack at Amanda. Amanda dodged to the side as the invisible force energy whooshed by. Behind her, the blackjack table exploded. Grabbing a chair, Kate turned and flung it at Amanda with the aid of her magic. Amanda stepped into it, meeting the chair head-on. It hit her aegis and shattered, hurting no one. To her left, Will waited for Kate on the far side of the room, breathing hard. Amanda needed to end this and get to Will. She returned her attention to Kate and lashed out with her magic, clawing at Kate's aegis. Energies flared, hissed, and popped in her magical sight as Kate's aegis fought valiantly against Amanda's superior magical ability and strength. But it wasn't enough. With a final flare of energy, Kate's aegis fell, ripped to shreds by Amanda's power. Kate sagged, looking scared and tired. Amanda approached the sad excuse for a magus and paused for a moment. She was beaten. Amanda looked up at Will. With a grimace, he disappeared through a door into the next room. "Shite," Amanda hissed. She couldn't lose him, and needed to be sure Kate wouldn't flee. Clenching her fist, Amanda punched Kate across the face, releasing a bolt of essentia into her as they connected, dropping her to the floor in a crumpled, unconscious heap. Amanda ran for the door Will had used. She clattered through them in time to see Will exiting into an outside patio space. Damn it. Crossing the room, she saw Will jump up onto a wall and glance back at her. He grinned as she reached the door to the patio. She could feel the buildup of magic around him. It looked like he was about to pour it out of here. Amanda focused her magic and countered his effect, successfully dissipating his magic. He scowled as Amanda jumped to the top of the nearest table. Looking a bit surprised by how close Amanda was to him, Will jumped off the ledge to the green park 8 feet below. Desperate not to lose him, Amanda hopped across the tops of several tables and followed him off the ledge into the park. She landed with a thud on the soft grass, her heels sinking into the dirt. Several meters away, Will ran into the shadows. Regaining her balance, Amanda chased after him through the trees. Behind, sirens and shouts followed her into the darkness as the authorities approached. Halfway through the park, with his aegis fueled, Will turned to face her. Amanda slowed to a walk and strode towards him. "You played us well, Magus," Will said. "You were sloppy," Amanda said. "Maybe, but what business is it of yours what we do? We weren't going to hurt him." "Maybe, maybe not. Your 2 friends were quick to fire at the casino staff, and I dislike bullies and scam artists who go around using their powers to take advantage of the weak." "Spoken like a true Arcadian, your mentor must be proud." "So, you are a nomad," Amanda said, feeling a little better for taking on these guys now. Will shrugged, clearly not wanting to announce his allegiance. Instead, he fired off a burst of magical energy towards Amanda, probably hoping to catch her off guard. But she'd been ready for it, and her powerful aegis did most of the work for her anyway. The magic surged about her, scratching at her shield but doing little else. Amanda leapt forward and swung a flying punch at Will that pulsed with essentia and hammered into his shield. "Holy shit," he blurted out, apparently surprised at the strength of her attack. His aegis wobbled, but stood firm. Amanda attacked again, but Will was ready for her and blocked. To her surprise, he returned the favor and hit back. Amanda's aegis flared from the essentia-infused attack, but was in no danger of failing yet. As they traded blows, Amanda used the multitasking effect again and split her mind. Keeping one mind on the fight, she used the others to launch a barrage of magical attacks against him with the aim of tearing down his defenses. Will's aegis flared and resisted to the best of its ability, but Amanda was just too strong. His shield cracked, then faulted, before shattering completely. She had the advantage. Wanting to end it quickly, she summoned her magic once more and pulled a massive hammer of kinetic energy down on Will, flattening and knocking him unconscious in a single devastating blow. The fight was over. Breathing deep, Amanda lowered her fists and relaxed. Standing on the edge of the small blast crater that her magic had caused, the wind pulled at her dress, making it flare about her legs as she caught her breath. "Well, that was entertaining," said a voice from behind her. Amanda turned to see Harry Fleming, an operative from the Arcanum, in a tailored dinner jacket and tie, his hands in his pockets and a wry smile on his face. Amanda's momentary alarm passed as she relaxed and smiled at Harry. "You saw all that?" "I saw enough of it." Harry had met Amanda on a couple of occasions when he had been a part of some of the meetings with the Magi Council. "They were nomads, scamming some poor unfortunate. I couldn't let that go." "I understand. It's what you do, I know that." Harry glanced at the ornate building behind him. "Just a shame it had to be at my favorite casino." Harry shrugged before addressing some approaching shadows. "Ah, well. Guys, over here." More agents of the Arcanum approached. Behind them, Maria wandered over from the casino. "You're always getting into some kind of fight," Maria joked, a big smile on her face. "Hi, Harry. Is she keeping you busy?" "Hey, yeah, always. Wouldn't have it any other way, though." "I bet." Maria turned to Amanda. "All done?" "Yeah, I'm done." "Great. How about we get out of here and let Harry do his thing?" Amanda nodded. "Gladly." Saying farewell to Harry, they turned as one and walked into the city. The end. This has been Casino Red, a Magi Saga story by Andrew Dobell. You can find out more about the Magi Saga and the author's other stories by going to his website at andrewdobellauthor.com.